Hi, I'm Peggy, your crypto gal, but today I'm going to be talking all last week and all this week. We're coming into the close of what's happening with the feds and what's determining of the US dollar and Treasury yields. What the hell are they going to do with their money? We've had an escalation of up to 5% in the real estate market. It's like, oh crap, what the hell's happening? We're at a debt for the ceiling. I mean, it's a lot is coming into visual. They knew this was going to happen. They knew coming into this crisis, and I call it a crisis, is it going to be a crash and burn? They're going to determine these factors coming into November with Jerome Powell. Is he going to get reelected? Is Biden going to stick with his guns on him, or the Biden administration? I mean, there's just I scratched my head. It's just a whole lot going on. And I'm sorry I'm hampering on this, guys, but to me, do your own read and research, but to me, this really shows the details of what is exactly fixing to happen in the United States of America, still being held as the richest country in the world. But we have a lot going on out there. You've got a lot of transitions coming up. Technology's made the move. Our millennials are our future of where our direction's going to be. Cryptocurrency's playing into a huge value factor into this. And these are important notes that I feel like people need to pay attention to looking at it in the stock markets. It's taking a look into the stock markets and seeing what's happening with this. I mean, when you go into these measures, what is the direction that it's going to take? So before we get started, listen, I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not here to talk about your finances. I don't care about your finances. Well, I do. Let me say that. I care about everybody's finance. Hell, I care about my own. I panic, what the hell is going to happen? But I also have to be realistic in factors to note that just because I'm hanging out over in the Caribbean because of COVID, that I made that decision to do that. The transitions of the money markets and talking to European people, and I've met so many people from United States and majorly from Texas and Florida, and listening to them talking about that. This is an important value of that. And this is why I love putting out my YouTube videos. I know some of y'all might think they're boring, but at the same time, I still would appreciate it if you would still like my video, no matter what. Please subscribe to me. Somewhere down the line, I'm sure I'll hit something that will interest you and target you, just to give you one thing to continue on with your read and research and not watch the news or sit down, as one of my real deal friends, Steve Cawley, would always say, sit and eat your potato chips and watching Netflix. Okay, listen, the Feds shed white lights onto the stock market as it boomed into its factors. Now it's playing with this roller coaster since we've got these yields of description in regards to this. And I'm going to step back a little bit in time, that when Secretary Treasurer Janet Yellen and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell spoke to the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, that the efforts of these prospective institutions have taken to combat the pandemic's impact on the economy. You think? In prepared remarks of the congressionally mandated testimony, Powell noted the importance of the joint aid, saying the Fed's lending program specifically, okay, and let's face it, there's been a hell of a lot of lending programs out there, okay, have served as a backstop to key credit markets and helped restore the flow of credit from private lenders through these normal channels. Now, I take that these private sectors, these private lenders are developing because the centralized banks are needing help. But a lot of those investors, as private lenders, developed their funds into the blockchain of the crypto space. They knew that they needed to protect their value line. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about crypto. Okay. Separately, Yellen said that she is optimistic about the medium-term trajectory of our economy, though she, like Powell, noted that the COVID Delta variant has slowed the recovery process. Okay, so we had to deal with COVID, do the shutdown, reestablish ourselves, opened up. Of course, Texas is like to hell with it. We're opening above and beyond. Our Governor Greg Abbott stood up for the factors, and Texas decided to take its bound steps of making sure we put retailers back into the earth to get movement, to create the GDP, the supply and demand, so people could get a little bit of normalcy back in their lives way before any other of the United States did. Now, with that being said, establishments happened. COVID started picking itself back up. People started doing the vaccine. Some people didn't start doing the vaccine. And then now we have this COVID Delta variant where you're getting the booster shot coming into play with this. Federal Chairman Jerome Powell cautioned that the causes of the recent rise in the inflation may last longer than it anticipated. You think? Seriously, come on. Did you think for any well perspective that anywhere in the globe, and that's why I label myself as Global Pegs, that they are not watching the spotlight as to what Powell is going to do? There is no way he can do this. And now we're at this high ceiling factor of our deadline of what we're going to do with it. You cannot turn the machine on and print more. Who has to pay for that? The taxpayers have to pay for that. And this is where they forget that. It's not just free money. Sure, can they write off some of these PPP programs that they've developed for different companies out there? Even globally, they're doing this. I know my friend in the UK said, hey, I got this money from the Queen's Court, and I'm taking it, I'm running with it, and I'm totally investing in it and living my life this way. The remarks are part of a mandated testimony that Powell must give to Congress regarding the Fed's economic response to the COVID-19 pandemic. As he delivered to the Senate Banking Committee, the central bank chair said economic growth has continued to strengthen. True. I mean, even when I was home, I did see a lot of movement, but the stores were still not back to place. Even the movie theater that I went to, people were budgeting themselves. Instead of having their own popcorn and their own drink, they were sharing bottled water, they were sharing their own popcorn, they were sharing meals. Even when you went to the restaurants, I was watching and looking. Of course, they're not sharing alcohol, because I sure as hell I'm not sharing my glass of wine, but they were sharing food. So things, sure, are they out, but they're reducing this down, right? Okay, they said the continued strength, but has been met by an upward price pressures caused by the supply chain bottlenecks and other factors. Of course, China holding on to this trade war values of not shipping stuff over to the United States. What Trump had set in, Biden's restricting it and renegotiating. And so China's like, oh my gosh. And this is one of the factors as to why China is doing what they're doing on shutting down their infrastructure. They built on it in the COVID period. Now they're retracing themselves and trying to control their own country. And hopefully the people won't fight them back. Now, inflation is elevated and will likely remain so in coming months before moderating. November's coming, buddy. As the economy continues to reopen and spending rebounds, we are seeing upward pressure on prices, particularly due to the supply bottlenecks in some sectors. Like I said the other day, my mom, the bread that she used to buy used to be $2.42. It is now $4.28 in less than 2 years' time. So these are different movements that I see as he's describing this, that these are going to be challenging factors to be able to state that they have this movement and what's going to happen with that. Like Goldman Sachs, real big into the markets, real big into the status quo of supporting. Him and Alibaba even coincided. Alibaba, that don't know that, Alibaba did a huge play on that with One Global Money of talking about Alibaba. It's like the Amazon in China is what Alibaba is. It's bigger than Amazon. I mean, the dude is just unbelievable. Goldman Sachs indicated that its prices to add another $10 per barrel coming into Q4, which starts tomorrow, and the trade being around $90 per barrel of launching this for what is happening out there into the investment banks. They're looking at the different adequacies of talking about where the power strict is, what China releases in strategic for their metal stocks, like they've totally shut down. They were after copper. They negotiated down in Chile, one of the #1 copper mines down there, wanting ownership in it, trying to do a dual effect with Australia with iron ore, and those countries shut down because they finally realized the investment that they really have. This created a situation for China. Now China's in a streamline that they want to be state controlled with their offshore oil companies, and they want to make sure that they can develop for their what they're going to do for the onset, because everybody globally has to be eco-friendly, and they're on a timeline with this. They set those statutes in the G20 with countries across the globe that they had to know what they needed to do, especially with oil and gas. Now in the tech stocks, it dropped in the 10-year Treasury yield to touch its high, but it also picked up itself as Microsoft and Google decided to step up to the pump. Amazon played a huge factor into the markets. This also gave us strength for the stronghold. Google, Apple, these became as a more of a developing market chase, I would like to say. Now, in closing, let's just say not someone that I strongly support in some of her thought processes, but as of notice that Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren said that she will oppose Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's renomination over his financial regulatory record if President Biden chooses to reappoint him. Warren even specifically told Powell, a Republican, during a Senate Banking Committee last Tuesday that she has grave concerns about the Fed's chief support of loosening financial rules, calling him a dangerous man to lead the central bank system. Because let's face it, the central banks, FDIC ruled, and if you keep all of your money in a centralized bank, wow. And I'm not just talking about the United States of America. I'm even talking about the EU. I'm even talking about the DAI over in Korea. I'm talking about the movement, people, the movement, okay? It's here. Renominating him is gambling the next 5 years of the Republican majority party on the Fed board of the Republican chair, who has regularly voted to deregulate Wall Street, won't drive this economy off of a financial cliff again, as Warren stated, okay? We are in a financial crisis. Now, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi that Congress has just under 3 weeks to address the looming debt ceiling and avoid the economic calamity that this has created. Now they have estimated that the Treasury is likely to exhaust extraordinary measures if Congress has not acted to raise or suspend the debt limit by October the 18th. So now we have to wait these 3 weeks that Yellen has wrote this, that the Treasury yield is to hold Nancy Pelosi toes to the wall of the grind with Congress to be able to address the debt ceiling and avoid this economic calamity that is in despair. We estimate that the Treasury is likely to exhaust the extraordinary measures. They are saying that this suspension will be able to have allowed Democrats to bypass a Republican filibuster and suspend or raise the ceiling without a GOP vote. Because the U.S. has never defaulted on its debt before, economists have to rely on forecasts and guesswork when trying to estimate the economic fallout a default would bring. Still, most economists say such a default would bring about financial calamity that could trigger a broad market sell-off and economic downturns, and amid the spike in where? Interest rates. And we just saw it today with 5% increase in real estate, which I've been saying this for the last 6 months. If you're buying a house, enjoy buying it now, honey, because it is going to end, and it's going to end quick. And I've got 2 very dear girlfriends that are in the real estate market, and I'm just like praying for both of them that they can get the closings on their houses in before the end of the year and not go into 2022 with the disparities of what they're looking at. You would expect to see an interest rate spike in the debt ceiling. Were not raised, Yellen said during its testimony even last Tuesday. She says, I think there would be a financial crisis and a calamity. Absolutely, it's true that the interest payments on the government debt would increase, okay? The government debt would increase, Okay, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, people, to figure that out. Now, I'm going to step abroad and change it up. I love talking about my commodities, okay? This is where the market comes into play. With China shutting down on the exuberance of their infrastructure, that they don't need to play in this commodities market anymore. Our stock markets have definitely risen in this whole week attributes of what Jerome Powell has been doing in his speeches of being a promissory note that cannot hold its value with the Treasury yields, that we have to determine where this is going to lay with our future stakes of investors in the market, that Wall Street is opening their eyes thinking that they have this huge bubble factor, that it's not going to explode. It will happen. There is no way we cannot sacrifice our shares in this alignment. So stepping into that, I go back into the commodities market, and I'm just going to share my screen with you guys real quick and open it up to you so you can see. This is looking at one of my all-time favorites as well. It's called Trading Economics. It's one that I highly suggest, not Market Watch today, which you can see over here to the right. You can see that I've been playing with it all day and watching what it's just, and these numbers have been in the red all morning. Now in this commodities line, they are definitely changing. I've got silver up, looking at it in the 1-day market. Taking a glance over with silver, you can see, as you guys know, 1 day is not something that I'm exuberant on. Let's open it up to 1 week, because we've been dealing with who? Jerome Powell, Secretary of Treasury with Janet Yellen. What's happening with Congress for these new bills that are coming in effect? We've got 3 weeks of sitting on the table, and look what the hell is happening in the commodities market of silver. Thank you for those that decided to get off your little tushes and do some investing in this market. This is one that I definitely stronghold. Silver plays a huge value line, okay? This is definitely one that you want in your factor. It's $22.12 on the ounce. So even if you got 5 ounces, come on, that's a little over $100. Surely you can define yourself with that. Now, stepping into copper. Copper fell below its 4.2 per pound, the lowest since September of 21st. Coming into it with the close of the month, I stronghold in copper to see. This is looking at it in 1 day that they say it's fall fortune. Okay, we're at it. We're dropping a little bit into its factor, going into its high of 4.768 of its ounce lines on tonnage. This place, another one. Now, these are US dollars that I'm talking about, okay? Okay, versus into the poundage. So make sure you know whenever you're doing your justifications, if you are on looking over into the bullionvault.com, make sure you know what you're doing. If you're on mint.com, silver coins, silver bars, look at the copper values. If you're not too sure about copper, one of the things that I like to do with copper is I like to do it with a mining company, and the mining companies are taking this and they're sharing this information with you on what you can do as an investment. Here's some other commodities just to be able to look at for the day. One of the big time that we looked at, and I just shared it just a few minutes ago, and that is iron ore, okay? With its 63.5% content of its, you can see it slipped back towards $100 per metric tonnage as it closed to the level since July of 2020. You can see it took a huge barrier in the market line. This is one that China was very stronghold into their market lines of wanting to devour. They wanted it from Australia. Australia's is like one of the largest iron ore proficiencies in the commodity market. So be careful what you wish for. And then one that we're all talking about, because we see construction going on everywhere with these people buying new houses and what they can do. But now construction plays its huge, trading above $600 per 1,000 board feet. This is one that you can see in the market. It has definitely opened itself up in a week's time and done its huge crash. Looking at it in the market line, you can see where it's definitely played its factor from 1672, and we're down to 642, coming into it almost close into the afternoon of what's happening there. Now, another one that I like to look at is wheat. Wheat plays a huge factor in this, and this is in the Chicago Market Exchange, at $7 a bushel that claims into its factors. This is something that is shipped Globally, people, we have huge wheat investments across the United States that ships globally to other countries, especially into China as well. And it is up in its market values, playing with the RSIs. I really firmly believe that you will definitely continue to see this for your foods in the agricultural side as to where these particular market lines go. So that's it for me today in the commodities market. I'm going to zip up my lips, which is very rare for me. As you guys know, if you're my friend or you're following me on YouTube, you can see how excited I get with out there into the markets. We're on our last day of crisis here. We're coming down to the click of the clock, as I call it, and I'm anxious to see what happens for a month-end close of what they're going to do in the disparity. We've got 3 weeks to wait on this. October the 18th will be here before you know it. So let's not get too excited, but you still need to be precautionary for yourself to know November's coming, and that's when Jerome Powell will make his determining factors, because he will be in the hot seat trying to make sure he gets his renomination, because we don't know what the Biden administration has got for that. That's one secret that we cannot find out about, but I'm sure something will be into play factor as we're coming up with this debt ceiling for Pelosi with the Congress to know what they're going to do for the score lines. So watch out for your investment. I hope I've given you at least one thing to be able to do your own read and research. I love you guys. I will see you guys really soon. I will not be doing any recordings tomorrow. Everything will start up on Monday again for crypto as well as the economics. And we're going to be talking about China big time, because they're getting ready to make a huge move. That's why I've got to do a lot of investigating tomorrow. I'm even working on my plans of shipping out, going to Hong Kong very, very soon. So I can't wait to be able to share with you guys for that market and what's happening. And so we'll do a little bit of more investigating. I've had a lot of people reach out to me of how the Asian market works. How do you look at it? How do you read it? Because it is totally different than what we do in the United States. So you guys have a fabulous afternoon. Please dingle my bell, like my video. Even if you don't like it, just still like it. Keep me alive out there so some people can get some information. Subscribe to me. I have all my other social medias on there: Facebook, Instagram, and Telegram. I'm here for you guys. I'm always out there. Reach out to me. I'm on Twitter 24/7 as well. Let me know what you want me to talk about, because I am here for you. We are all in this together globally. You guys take care. Have a fabulous afternoon, and I will see you very soon.